Girivaradhari Nityananda Vallabha Nivarada Yashodhanandana Rajajana Ranjana Shodanandana Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Nandana Rajajana Yamuna Tiramana Charina Tira Yamuna Tira Vanachari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Puri Braja Acharya Ashtatara Sutta Shishimad His Divine Grace Abhay Charana Ravinda Bhakti Vedanta Shamni Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Puri Braja Acharya Ashtatara Sutta Shishimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrindi Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Nam Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Tamsi Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashri Gaur Bhakta Vrindi Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Shri Maya Purnavati Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Shamaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Thai Gopramanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. Glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Guru.
Today's speaker for Srimad Bhagavatam first met His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada in 1969. He has been a temple president of numerous temples, Vancouver, Johannesburg, Mauritius. He's also a Sankirtan leader in Los Angeles. He's distributed books, and now he travels a large part of his year throughout the world conducting workshops to better improve everyone's sadhana and relationships within this movement. His Grace, Mahatma Das.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we're reading from the 10th canto, the 8th chapter, and we're reading text 47 and 48 about the appearance of Jashoda and Nanda Maharaj, and we're going to chant text 47, and then we'll discuss both text 47 and 48. Pitara Nanavidetam Chino Dhara Bhakkehitam No Dhara Bhakkehitam Ghayanti Adhyapi Kavayo Ya Loka Shamalapaham Pitara Navanindit Krishna Dhara Bhakkehitam Gayantyadyapi Kavayo Yaloka Shamalapaham Pitaro Nanavinditam Navavind Krishna Dhara Bhakehitam Gayantyadyapi Kavayo Yaloka Shamalapaham Pitaro Navavinditam Krishna Dhara Bhakehitam Dhara Bhake Gayantyadyapi Kavayo Yaloka Shamalapaham Hitam Ladies. Word meanings. Pitara, the actual father and mother of Krishna. Na, not. Anvavinditam, enjoyed. Krishna, of Krishna. Uddhara, magnanimous. Arbhakta ihitam, the childhood pastimes he performed. Gayanti, are glorifying. Adya api, even today. Kavayaha, great sages and saintly persons. Yat, which is Loka Shamala Apaham by hearing of which the contamination of the whole material world is vanquished. Translation. Although Krishna was so pleased with Vasudeva and Devaki that he descended as their son, they could not enjoy Krishna's magnanimous childhood pastimes, which are so great that simply chanting about them vanquishes the contamination of the material world. Nanda Maharaj and Jasoda, however, enjoyed these pastimes fully, and therefore their position is always better than that of Vasudeva and Devaki. Purport. Krishna actually took birth from the womb of Devaki, but just after his birth he was transferred to the home of Mother Jasoda. Devaki could not even have Krishna suck her breast. Therefore, Parikshit Maharaj was astonished. How had Mother Jasoda and Nanda Maharaj become so fortunate that they enjoyed the complete childhood pastimes of Krishna, which are still glorified by saintly persons? What had they done in the past by which they were elevated to such an exalted position? So, this question necessitates understanding the position of Jasoda and Nanda Maharaj. And the way the question is being asked, it makes it sound like they did something to achieve this position. It wasn't necessarily their eternal position. And he's asking, what did they do to get this position? And we heard yesterday what pious activities or what auspicious activities must one perform to get such a position. So now, the next verse is going to begin to answer this question. But we have a problem. It asks another question which is answered in the verse tomorrow. Which means if I say too much about the answer to that question, the speaker tomorrow will have nothing to say. And if I say nothing about it, then I'll have nothing to say. So, what to do? Anyway, hopefully Krishna will inspire us. So I'll read the Sanskrit and the translation and purport for text 48. Sri Shuka Uvacha Drona Vasunam Pravaro Dharaya Bharyaya Saha Karishamana Adeshang Brahmanastam Uvachaha. Sukadeva Goswami said, to follow the orders of Lord Brahma, Drona, the best of the Vasus, along with his wife, Dhara, spoke to Lord Brahma in this way. So now, some of you may be confused because Drona and Dhara are the parents of Krishna in different incarnations. And so the question is, like, what is their position now in this Leela with Krishna? Because they were his mother or father in previous incarnations. And so we need to discuss that a little bit. I won't discuss it too much because that's for tomorrow's verse. Yeah. I can't say anything more because Radhacharan will be very upset with me. And you never want to upset a devotee. Right? You always want to make devotees happy. Hare Krishna. Purport, as stated in the Brahma Samhita 537, Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratithabhitabhis Patibhavitabhis Tabirya Eja Nivarupatara Kalabhi Goloka Eva Nivasat Akilatma Bhuto Govindamari Prusham Tamaham Bhajami. When Krishna descends anywhere, he is accompanied by his own associates. These associates are not ordinary living beings. Krishna's pastimes are eternal, and when he descends, he comes with his associates. Therefore, Nanda and Mother Jasoda, are the eternal father and mother of Krishna. This means that whenever Krishna descends, Nanda and Jasoda, as well as Vasudeva and Devaki, also descend as the Lord's father and mother. Their personalities are expansions of Krishna's personal body. They are not ordinary living beings. Maharaj Parikshit knew this, but he was curious to know from Shukadeva Goswami whether it is possible for an ordinary human being to come to this stage by sadhana siddhi. In other words, can you become Krishna's mother or father by sadhana siddhi, or must you eternally have that position? Is it a position you could achieve? That's the question he's asking. A Nitya Siddha is one who is eternally Krishna's associate, an expansion of Krishna's personal body, whereas a Sadhana Siddha is an ordinary human being who, by executing pious activities and following regulative principles of devotional service, also comes to that stage. Thus, the purpose of Maharaj Parikshit's inquiry was to determine whether an ordinary human being can attain the position of Mother Jasoda and Nanda Maharaj. Sukadeva Goswami answers this as follows. So, like I said, I can't say anything because it's answered in the next verse. So what to do? Time for prasadam or what? Hare Krishna. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sanyabadi Paschatyadatani. So in yesterday's class, a very interesting question was asked at the end of class. How is it that Krishna is always in Vrindavan, but he leaves Vrindavan? And the reason that was an interesting question was because that was the subject of the whole class. So even though Maharaj explained it, still that question came up. And this often happens. You give your whole class on something, and then someone raises their hand, and they ask you a question which is exactly about everything you talked about. Interesting, isn't it? And when I heard that question, a thought came to my mind, is that in a conditioned stage, it's very difficult to understand these things. How Krishna left Vrindavan, but he never leaves Vrindavan. What's going on here? And the gopis are feeling separation, but Krishna's always present by their remembrance, and he's always present in the Aprakrat Leela. And then, if you want to complicate it even more, when Krishna went to Dwarka, then all the gopis expanded and became queens, so they were actually there. And when he created Nava Vrindavan, they actually expanded and they were there. And then when he went to Kurukshetra, they actually expanded and they were there. And Krishna, I think it was mentioned in yesterday's class, 3 times Krishna came back, but he came back more than 3. If you get into it, he came back fairly, I don't want to say regularly, but he did come back. And then there's this other problem that, okay, he came back, but then why did he leave after he came back? And then the residents of Vrindavan are suffering, and how could Krishna allow them to suffer? And so, as I was thinking about this question, and this person was asking, it became obvious that one of the obstacles we have in trying to understand Krishna Leela is we're trying to understand Krishna Leela. That's the obstacle. And then you might say, but Prabhu, all the acharyas, they are explaining very deeply. And it's true. Because it's difficult to understand, they have to explain it. And all the acharyas explain it more and more and more. Because we try to understand everything according to our material experience. There's a funny morning walk. Devotees were somewhere in the world, and they're walking somewhere, and one of the devotees from California says, "Srila Prabhupada, this looks just like California." And Prabhupada says, "Yes, wherever you go, to you it will look like California, because you're from California. And sometimes devotees would ask questions to Prabhupada about the spiritual world. And Prabhupada understood that the question was impossible for them to understand in their present condition. And he would just say, well, you'll have to go there to find out the answer. That was his answer. You can't understand it from this perspective. So sometimes these things are difficult to understand. And you hear things like, when Krishna is separated from the devotees, it's the highest ecstasy. And then you read that Radharani was laying on the ground almost dead in separation. Like, how is that ecstasy? So it's difficult to understand, and that's why we get questions like that. How was Krishna in Vrindavan? How did he leave? After it was explained during the whole class, because it's difficult to understand. So now, in this portion of the Bhagavatam, you have something also difficult to understand. Who is Vasudeva and Devaki? Who is Jasoda and Nanda? And who is Drona and Dhara? Now, one thing I've realized is that many of us like to study. We like to learn and we like to think. So Krishna facilitates that by creating all these kind of amazing transcendental leelas and descents of different devotees and associates. So we have to go through the books, then we have to read the commentaries, then we have to read the sandarbhas, and we have to keep reading to understand. But I give a basic understanding. Do you remember when Krishna was about to descend, you read in the Krishna book, and it said, he ordered the demigods to descend on earth as his associates. And I was like, wait a minute. I thought Krishna descends with his eternal associates, and now it says he's ordering the demigods to descend. What's going on? Confusion, right? So how does this work? Well, the eternal associates of Krishna descend in two ways. One way they descend, as we know, is they just descend directly. But another way they descend is they expand their forms. Oh yeah, this also brings up another point. Radha and Krishna are separated, but in the spiritual world they're always together. So they're separated, but they're together. And anyway, so the eternal associates of Krishna can expand their forms. So they expand first in a form in Vaikuntha, and then they expand again and they come, or they descend from there as demigods. And then as demigods, then they come down and they take birth. And so those cowherd boys who were demigods were expansions who became demigods, and they came down. Now, who is Drona and who is Dhara? I have to say something. And tomorrow, Radhacharan will give you the details. Drona and Dhara are known as the Vasus who descended. But if you study more deeply and get into it, you find out that they're actually expansions of Jasoda and Nanda Maharaj. So, and those expansions merged into the body of Jasoda and Nanda Maharaj because they're part of them. And in answer to this question, these things are explained that we cannot become Jasoda and Nanda Maharaj, and we cannot become an expansion of Jasoda and Nanda Maharaj. That position is already taken. Sorry. If you're in Vatsalya Ras, you're not going to get that position. So here again is where material thinking comes, because maybe if you're cultivating Vatsalya Ras, you'd say, I'd really like to be Krishna's mother. I'd really like to be Jasoda. And you read about Jasoda. But it's not the way we're instructed to think, and it's not, we can't achieve that position. Now, from the material perspective, you might think, I want that position. And if I can't have that position, I won't be happy. That's material thinking, right? Yes? It's already taken. And Prabhupada said, if you think you are Jasoda, or if you think you could become Jasoda, or you try to become Jasoda or Nanda Maharaj, that's impersonalism. That's Mayavad, just like trying to become Krishna. You can't. You can't become Mother Yasoda. That's his eternal mother and father. So, Prabhupada has told us that whatever position, whatever our Sthayi Bhava is, whatever our relationship is with Krishna, whatever we want to cultivate, we will be satisfied in whatever position we're in. We don't, if you're in Vatsalya Rasa, you don't have to be Jasoda to be happy. You'll be happy in whatever your position is. That's the nature of the spiritual world. There's no envy, there's no lack. So you might be thinking, Shinda Bhagavan Ki Jai. You might be thinking thoughts such as, is there room for me in the spiritual world? If I'm a coward boy, do I get to go out with Krishna or do I have to stay back? If I'm a gopi, are they going to make me make cow dung patties for eternity? Will I get to do anything else? So this is all material thinking. So my point is, we have a tendency to look at transcendence from our perspective materially, and then we get all these crazy ideas. And Prabhupada's point is that it's perfect. It's ananda. And that's also how we understand when we see something in the Leela that seems, this doesn't seem right, or Krishna shouldn't have done this. Why did he do that? That's not fair. Or you could even say, it's not fair that Putana became his mother because she came to kill him. Why did you could understand it materially, but that's where we get sidetracked. That's where we misunderstand the Leela. Everything in the Leela is Anandamaya. We read this verse, Anandamaya. What does Anandamaya mean? Ananda Chinmaya Rasa. There's no influence of the modes of nature, so there's no misery. And if there is misery, it's blissful. Can you relate to blissful misery? Have you ever experienced that? Somebody, your best friend, dies. Blissful misery? No. It's just misery, no bliss. Right? But in the spiritual world, there is only transcendence. Satchidananda, or Ladini Shakti, the blissful energy, is all pervading. So there's no misery. So that's one point. Now, another point upon reading this verse, or these verses, when Prabhupada says, you can't be Nitya Siddha, a Sadhana Siddha can't take the position of Jasoda, Sisi Radha Madhava Ki Jai. But you remember the personified Vedas. They prayed to Krishna that they could be gopis. They became attracted. The personified Vedas, that's interesting, right? The personified Vedas became attracted to conjugal rasa, and they prayed to Krishna if they could take birth in his Leela as a gopi. The sages of Naimisharanya prayed, because they were attracted to Lord Ram, if they could take birth as gopis. And others prayed to Krishna if they could take birth as gopis. And what happened? They took birth as gopis. Right? You remember that? So what does that mean? That means whatever you want, whatever rasa you're in, Krishna will fulfill that. Right? Whatever your desire is. Yes? Whatever it is, Krishna will fulfill it. And it'll be perfect. Right? There won't be anything lacking. And if you are in Sakya Ras and you are in Madhurya Ras, there'll be nothing lacking in your Sakya Ras. That is material thinking. So we shouldn't think anything is lacking in the spiritual world. And whatever desire you have, it will be revealed that that is your relationship at some point, and you'll cultivate it, and you'll be happy. Now, so now we're talking about Mother Yasoda, and you say, well, what if I'm in a paternal ras, and I want to be in the mood of Mother Yasoda, then, but I can't be Mother Yasoda, so how does that work? So then we're instructed, you become inspired by Mother Yasoda's bhakti, and especially Mother Yasoda's mood. That's what you try to follow. And in any ras that you're in, you can be inspired by Mother Yasoda's mood, right? Just like during Kartik. Are you inspired by Mother Yasoda's mood, her bhakti? Are you? It's like, no, I'm not in Vatsalya ras, so I don't listen to Leela of Mother Yasoda. No, it's not like that. Because the Acharya said Mother Yasoda's devotion, bhakti, is very close to the level of Radharani's bhakti. It's so intense, it's so deep. So we all get inspired, but specifically if you're in Vatsalya ras, you get inspired by that mood of Mother Yasoda to follow. But all of us in every ras were inspired by the mood of Mother Yasoda. And then you might say, but what if I'm in Sakya ras? Do I get inspired? How do I get inspired by the gopis? It's a different rasa. Because of the purity of their bhakti, you get inspired. It's just like Daiva Nrsimha. He does something, inspires me. I don't have to ask him, Prabhu, what rasa are you in? To see if I can get inspired by him. It's bhakti, it's inspiring. So the two things are there. We're inspired, but specifically if you're in that rasa, you're inspired by the mood. So we don't have to become Yasoda, but we allow Yasoda to inspire us. We'll never become the principal gopis, but we're inspired by them. We'll never become Radharani, but we can serve them. This idea, another material idea, in the Bible it says the last will become first. That's a difficult idea for a conditioned soul. But we're striving for that. Another point I was thinking when I was reading this is when Prabhupada came to the West, it's interesting to ponder what was he thinking, what was in his heart, and what was in his mind when he was coming here. Or we could say more directly, what do you think Prabhupada's mission was? Of course, you have the seven purposes of ISKCON, but I'm not referring to on the practical level, on a deeper level. What was going on in Prabhupada's heart? What do you think was going on in his heart when he was on the boat? Like if you had to put his mission into one sentence, what do you think it was? What do you think was going on? When he was sitting in 26-second Alma and he saw those people, what was going on? He sees all these people sitting there. What was he thinking? I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think he was thinking, okay, you might say he was thinking how to make them Krishna conscious. I think, of course, we'll all agree, that's obvious. But more deeply, I believe he was thinking how to get all these people back to Godhead, out of here. That's my mission. That's why I came to the West. Not just to distribute the holy name, distribute books, distribute prasadam, but to actually get these people back to Godhead in this lifetime. That was Prabhupada's mission. And there's a nice story about this. There's a couple stories about this. Srila Prabhupada told Rabindra Sarup Prabhu that if you chant 16 rounds, and I'm sure Prabhupada meant 16 rounds without offense, and you follow the four regular principles, in this life you can go back to Godhead. And Rabindra Sarup said, is that all? Natural question, right? Is that all? You don't have to do anything else? Prabhupada said, if you chant 16 rounds and follow the four regular principles, in this lifetime you'll go back to Godhead. But Prabhupada, is that all? Is there anything else? What else? It can't be so simple. There must be, like a similar question. Prabhupada slammed his fist on the table. if you chant 16 rounds a day and follow the 4 regular principles, I guarantee in this life you go back to Godhead. Whoa. Bhishma, Bhishma, whoa. Okay, so, all right, sounds good to me. Okay, no, we have to test that. That Mahabhakya was tested. So, big Acharya in Gaudiya Math was told that. Prabhupada said that. And he said, no, that's not possible. He said, no. Srila Prabhupada said, he said, no, it takes 3 lives. You can't do it in 1 life. 3 lives. And this Acharya was very close to Prabhupada. He accepted Prabhupada as the Siksha Guru. And I said, no, but he said that. And he said, he said that? He was completely shocked. He said that? He really said that? He couldn't believe it. And I said, yes, he said that. And then he thought, and he said, well, if Prabhupada said it, it must be true. And then he said, Prabhupada could do that. He said, if he said it, he could do that. Right? So, maybe we take it for granted, but outside of ISKCON, they don't say that. They don't say 1 life, 16 rounds, 4 principles, you go back to Godhead. And they said, no, it's at least 3, maybe more. So, and I want to substantiate why I think Prabhupada, when he looked at us, when he was seeing us, when he was going out preaching, when he was writing his books, that his meditation was how to get these souls in this life back to Godhead. Of course, we know all great acharyas think that way. Prahlad Maharaj, famous verse, I'm happy hearing and chanting, but I'm not happy there are so many souls here. And one of the ways that I feel we can demonstrate this to be true is that many, many, many lectures of Prabhupada ended with the statement, and go back home, back to Godhead. That's how the lecture ended. Rukmini? True? True or true? Prabhupada Vrata Damodar Maharaj? True or true? Not every lecture. When was the last time you heard a lecture by a disciple of Prabhupada that ended with, go back home, back to Godhead? Did you ever hear it? It's rare. I actually have never said it. I'm going to end this lecture with that so I can go down on the books that having ended my lecture with that, because I think it's a wonderful way to end a lecture. But if you listen to lectures of Prabhupada, it's not uncommon that he would end his lecture, go back home, back to Godhead in this lifetime. So, I was personally, as another substantiation, I was personally in a lecture, and there was a situation in the temple that Prabhupada was aware of, and he was addressing it in his lecture. And some devotees were leaving because they said it was difficult to live with the devotees. The devotees were upsetting them in some way. And they were leaving. And they had told Prabhupada, some devotees are leaving because they're upset. And Prabhupada said, even if you're upset, don't leave. And then he said, before you became devotees, you were all rogues and demons. And he said, now you've been elevated to the highest position of bhakti. And if you leave, again, you'll become rogues and demons. Now, he didn't say it that way, more dramatic. And again, you become rogues and demons. Like something like that. More dramatic. And then he went on to say something very interesting, I don't know if you're aware of. But I want to preface it before I tell you what he said. Prabhupada was often having a difficult time convincing us that we should try to go back to Godhead in one lifetime. You know that? I mean, obviously, devotees left, so they're definitely demonstrated they weren't interested in going back to Godhead in this lifetime. But from my perception, Prabhupada's job, yes, it was to take us back to Godhead, but in order to take us back to Godhead, he had to convince us that we really should want to go back to Godhead, because he can't take you if you don't want to go. So in many ways, if you listen to Prabhupada's lectures and you read his books, and you read his books from this position, you can see one of the main challenges he has to do is just get it in here that this is an opportunity that you've been waiting 8,400,000,000 years for. And now you have it, and don't lose this opportunity. There's so many lectures like that. You know, sometimes Prabhupada would say, be fully prepared to go back home, back to Godhead. Have you ever heard that one? Be fully prepared? Anybody? Be fully prepared. Yes. You heard it from me, right? Yeah. Hare Krishna. So what does that mean? Bags are packed, ready to go. We're leaving today. Are you fully prepared? There's a cartoon. This guy's going to Yamaraj. Well, it's not Yamaraj, but we can say it's Yamaraj. The god of death is there. And outside the gate, to go to the god of death, there's all this trash and suitcases, because people come there with their suitcases. And it's like, no, you can't bring your suitcase. You can't bring it in. Are you fully prepared? Have you made peace with all your material attachments? Are you fully prepared? So Prabhupada had to instill within us an awareness of the opportunity. Are you aware that Mahaprabhu comes once every 8,400,000,000 years, and just by some chance, fortunate chance, you happen to be here at the right time? Are you aware of that? Did you know that? And if you miss this opportunity, then Prabhupada said in this lecture, if you miss this opportunity, he said, yes, you will be born, or you may be born in a yogi family or aristocratic family. Then he said, but. And I don't think many devotees have heard the but, because we think, well, if you're born in that situation, it's not but, it's then. Then you get an opportunity to hear Shastra. Your parents are devotees, or they're Brahmins, or they're aristocratic, and you don't have to struggle, and you have time. He didn't say then in this lecture, he said, but. Would you like to hear the but? What comes after the but? It's very interesting. He said, yes, if you don't become perfect in this life, you will take birth in this situation. But if you take birth in this situation, aristocratic family, very wealthy, everything is very nice, it is possible that you will get deviated and not take up Krishna consciousness. Isn't that interesting? So we all think, well, if I don't make it in this life, I'll do it in the next. And the Prabhupada said, maybe not. You may not do it in the next. And who knows when the next will be. So therefore, in this lecture, this was 1972, Los Angeles. Then Prabhupada was trying to convince us, don't come back. And then he said, Kali Yuga, it will become very bad. You don't want to come back and take birth again. Now, this is interesting, because he said it 48 years ago. So when Prabhupada's saying, you don't want to come back and take birth in Kali Yuga, because Kali Yuga is going to be very, very bad, what year was he talking about? About now. Because this is the time that a lot of people in that room would have left their bodies, or will soon, within the next decade or so. So he's talking about now. You don't want to come back, because it's going to become very, very bad. So this is just one lecture of many that I was fortunate enough to be there, where Prabhupada was just pushing. Finish your business in this life. You don't want to come back. If you come back, you may not become Krishna conscious. Opportunity, take advantage like that. So I think that's important. And sometimes we might say, but, sometimes I just don't feel like it. You remember the story of Chintamani in Bilvamangal Thakur? You must all know that story. So Prabhupada told that story, and then at the end of the story he said, don't make me come back to the prostitute house to save you. It's like, well, what does that mean? And Radhika Nagar was asking me, well, does Prabhupada come back? How old is he? Where is he? Did he join another movement? How do we meet him? And it is a difficult question to answer, and devotees have discussed it and say, well, it may not be personally, but his representatives come. But then I was thinking, we know for a couple of our god brothers who had left Krishna consciousness, we know that when they were leaving their body, Prabhupada came back to them. We know that. And how do we know that? Because when they were leaving their body, you know what they said? Who knows what they said? They said, Prabhupada, you've come. That's what they said. And that's how we know Prabhupada came. So, don't make me come back and save you. So, Prabhupada's mission is for us to go back to Godhead. That means our mission is to go back to Godhead in this lifetime, right? To regain our position now as a Nityasiddha associate. Not Mother Yasoda, not Radharani, that's not possible. But whatever position that is, it's waiting for you. It's a beautiful story. This one man, he did so much service for the devotees. In Juhu. It was amazing service. And he was a builder, construction man, so he was building apartments for devotees because they had inherited apartment houses on the property, and he was building these apartments. And he was defending in the spiritual world. So, your home is ready, Prabhu. The only thing missing is you. Your service is ready. Your family is ready. Everything is ready. The only thing missing is you. You're down here. What's so important? Why are you down here so long? So, Gopkumar goes back to Godhead. He gets there. When he arrives, it was a long trip, and he went through various planets, through Vaikuntha. Finally, he goes back to Godhead. He's a cowherd boy. He gets back to Godhead, and the first thing he asks is, well, what would you ask? What are you going to ask when you go back to Godhead? Where's the toilet? No, you won't ask that. What time is breakfast? No. What will you ask? Where's Krishna? So he asked, where's Krishna? And they said, oh, he's there. He's coming back. He's coming back from herding the cows. And so Gopkumar sees Krishna. Krishna sees him, and they run together, and they embrace. And Krishna says, yeah, why'd you take so long? I've been waiting for you. Yeah. So it's a beautiful scene to meditate on. And I rephrase that in more of a cutting edge term. What were you doing down there that was so important that it's taken you so long? And I think that's a good question that we can ask. What is so important that's preventing you from going back to Godhead? So Krishna's waiting for you. Prabhupada came to get you. Prabhupada wants you to go. Even you don't want to go. It's your duty to Prabhupada to go. If you're initiated, your spiritual master's trying to take you back to Godhead. Don't resist. He's pulling the rope. Don't pull back on it. Just let him take you. That's our service. And that's not only Prabhupada's mood, but we're meant to inherit that mood, and in our preaching, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get everyone back to Godhead. So therefore, Prabhupada Damodar Vrata Maharaja.
Hare Krishna. I thought you were going to say, oh, back to home, back to Godhead at the end. I was really looking for
I forgot. Okay, wait a minute. Pause button. Okay, we have time. So, Prabhupada wants you to go back to Godhead. Krishna wants you to go to bed. They're all waiting. So in this life, take to Krishna consciousness. Be happy and go back home, back to Godhead.
Yeah.
Haribo!
Yeah. That's how it should end. Yeah. Okay.
I do have a question.
I'm getting old. I have a bad memory. Okay.
I do have a question. Actually, maybe it's a comment. It seems like we say in America, a no-brainer or something.
Yes.
But it becomes much less implausible, this idea that Prabhupada was insisting you chant 16 rounds and follow the four regular principles. About the chanting the 16 rounds, it becomes much less astonishing that you go back to Godhead in one lifetime, or even if it were 3 lifetimes, it's not much. If we take into account that Srila Prabhupada was not necessarily referring to spaced out, offensive, inattentive rounds. So we have that challenge, and if we meet that challenge and we come up to actual Nam,
definitely,
then we realize it's not so easy to do that, so then it's not such a cheap thing.
Yes, definitely. Thank you for that. When Prabhupada says chant Hare Krishna, he doesn't mean chant Hare Krishna any old way. He means chant without offense. And why do we recite the 10 offenses at initiation? Because this is how you're supposed to chant, and you're being given the name. And so we make vows, but we should also make a vow to chant without offense, right? That's part of the initiation vow. So yeah, I think that is obvious. You can't just chant offensive rounds and think everything's going to come from that. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, well, what is offenseless, or what is the clearing stage? The clearing stage is when you're trying to avoid the offenses. So the biggest offense, I think, is to not try to avoid the offenses, because not trying to avoid the offenses is the definition of offensive chanting. So that's the biggest offense. And all the other offenses come from that lack of effort to avoid the offenses, because that was Bhaktisiddhanta's definition. The endeavor to chant without committing the offenses, that's the clearing stage, or you could even call that offenseless. And there's a nice story. The Giriraj Swami had asked Prabhupada, is it offensive if I'm chanting and my mind is wandering? And we would think, yeah, 10th offense, distraction. And Prabhupada asked him, he said, are you trying to avoid the offense? And he said, yes, Prabhupada, I'm trying, but my mind is wandering. And Prabhupada said, if you are trying, it's not offensive. Because what more can you do than try your best? So I like that definition. Chanting without making the endeavor to avoid the offenses is offensive. That's offensive chanting. So thank you for bringing that up. And if the holy name is so powerful that if you chant without offense in this life, that Prabhupada, okay, we have something else that you may have heard Prabhupada said. Prabhupada said, if you follow this process in this lifetime, you can see Krishna just like I'm seeing you. Those are his exact words. You can see Krishna. And he said, and you can dance with Krishna. So you could say that was another goal of Prabhupada, that you will be able to dance with Krishna. That's the goal. And one devotee said, Prabhupada, when we go back to Godhead, will we recognize you? Will you be there? And Prabhupada said, yes, I will be there. I will grab you by the hand and I will introduce you to Krishna. So, what are you waiting for? Hare Krishna. Anything else? Yes.
Prabhu, you mentioned that Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj are eternal associate of Lord Krishna, and this position is already occupied.
Yes.
How to understand that?
Louder? Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj are eternal associates of Krishna. It's occupied.
And how to understand that Putana became mother?
How to understand that Putana became mother? Yes, because just like you may remember in the Leela of Krishna when he became all the cowherd boys, right? Remember that? So now when the cowherd boys go home, guess what? Those mothers don't have their sons anymore. They have Krishna as their son, and they were breastfeeding those boys. They were young. So all of them got to be mothers, and they got to breastfeed Krishna. And other mothers in Vrindavan would breastfeed Krishna also. So you can't become Jasoda, but you can become a mother. Because that's Vatsalya Ras. Right? So you just can't become her, the mother who gives birth to Krishna, or the only mother. But Krishna knows how to reciprocate. So whatever you want, he'll figure out a way to do it. Right? So that was one clever way to do it. Oh, well, I'll just become all the boys in Vrindavan, and then all the mothers who are in Vatsalya Ras with me, they get to have me as their son. That would solve that problem. So that's the beauty of Krishna consciousness, that he'll fulfill your desire. And he'll figure out how to fulfill it. And you'll be happy, and he'll be happy. And you'll make Krishna happy by realizing your eternal rasa and engaging in service. You know, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur said, he said, every living entity has a very specific rasa with Krishna, in the sense that there's a specific taste. So the taste that you get, and you get, and you get, it's slightly different. And the taste Krishna gets from your service is slightly different. So Krishna wants to taste the relationship with all of you. And by staying here and not reviving your relationship, you're depriving him of the taste that he can actually get from you. And then you might think, me? Who am I? I'm just a fallen soul from Nigeria. I'm a fallen soul from Los Angeles. I'm a fallen soul from Siberia. Fallen soul, yeah, he's a fallen soul from Chile. She's a fallen soul from Siberia, from Estonia, from Italia, Poland. Why would Krishna care? But he does. And there's that special rasa or taste. So Prabhupada said, if you have 10 fingers, one finger is diseased. You go to the doctor, and the doctor says, we'll just cut off the diseased finger. You have 9 left. What do you think? Good idea? Yeah, go ahead. I have 9, no problem. So he said, no, you'll try to save it. And he said, in the same way, even though Krishna has unlimited relationships, there's unlimited living entities, everyone is important. So you are important to Krishna, and he wants that relationship, and he's waiting for you, and the house is empty. All we need is you. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki... Oh, one more question, okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
Prabhu,
one
for
more question.
Wonderful class. Just wanted to know that once Srila Prabhupada in the class said that you should be 100% pure to go back home, back to God. Then later he saw the faces of the devotees, and he said no, 90%.
Yeah.
And so can you tell more, what percentage he told exactly?
Well, there's the story he's telling that Prabhupada always said you had to be 100% pure. In the early days, I remember hearing Prabhupada say, even if you have a desire for one sweet ball, to taste one sweet ball, you cannot go back to Godhead. It's like, wow. Taste one, I have a desire to taste them all. So, and then Prabhupada was giving the tattva. The tattva is you have to be completely pure to go back to Godhead. And as we are told, Prabhupada looked at the devotees, that they just looked down like, this is impossible. And so he kept reducing. 90%, 80%, 70%. Well, I have to be 70%, 60%. Okay, then he said, at least 50. And then he left class and he said, you just hold on to my lotus feet. I have the key to the back door. So when Prabhupada says 16 rounds, 4 principles, I think those stories go together. It's like, as they say in Hollywood, it's not what you know, it's who you know. So when you go back to God and they're looking at you going, nah, I don't think so. You go, no, but I know Prabhupada. Okay, in. You're in. So something like that. And if you can please Prabhupada, you automatically please Krishna. So it's Prabhupada's mission is to get us back to Godhead. He has to make some concession with Krishna. And maybe that concession is that the moment we die, we'll become completely pure. Who knows? But our faith is that if we serve Prabhupada, serve his mission, follow the sadhana he gives us, then our life is perfect. We don't have to worry whether I'm going back to Godhead or not. He'll take care of that. And if he wants you to preach somewhere, he'll take you there. So we're not worried. Back to Godhead or wherever. But we have that faith. That there was a devotee here. There was a devotee, he left Prabhupada, he went to Radhakund, and the Babajis told him, you have to chant 64 rounds a day, otherwise you can't get prema. And that devotee was stupid enough to write a letter and tell Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, you have to chant 64 rounds a day, otherwise you won't get prema. Hare Krishna. And Prabhupada turned to the devotees in his room and said, you cannot force Krishna to give you prema. You can't do something, this, and it comes by his mercy. And we know Prabhupada embodies that mercy, and through his mercy, we have confidence that we follow his instruction, and he'll make up that 50% that's missing, impurity, he'll make it up. That's our faith. And so we give our lives to the Sankirtan mission based on that faith. Is that okay? Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Thai Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bo.